Hey folks, Aaron here. Welcome back to an anime review. Today we're looking at Junji Ito Collection, episode 3. Now, I will say that this week's episode was like 3 parts good, bad, and ugly. That's probably the best way I could put it, because there were things I liked about this week's episode, don't get me wrong. But there were parts of the stories that I did not like, and mostly, I want to say it was leaning toward the bad side of things, because this episode wasn't that great. And I'll explain why in a second. But let's go bit by bit with the stories first. Let's talk about the Crossroads, because I think that's the longest one. It takes about like 15 or 16 minutes to go through. I think actually more than that, because the other story goes through, I think it's like 2 minutes long or something like that. So realistically, probably like 20 minutes almost. The first story is about this weird town where they have this belief that if you go to a crossroads and wait there, and some stranger goes past you, you can ask them what your fortune will be. So it's like, oh, what will my love life be? Or how will my future be? And that person's supposed to then tell you good, bad, etc. Now, there's a kind of wandering threat, though, that it's in the form of this guy named the Pretty Boy. Because he's a dude, but he's got like voluptuous lips, and he's got like very, like, I want to say almost feminine hair, etc. But, you know, he is a dude. And the thing is that he goes through the town and tells people horrible fortunes. Like, he tells the girls, oh, your love life's going to be terrible, etc. And usually the next day, they commit suicide in that same area that they were told the bad fortunes in. But our story then kind of shifts focus to our protagonist, who has originally lived in that town way back when. And we find out it's because his past was kind of, I want to say, pretty bad in terms of when he was a child. One lady who was having an affair with someone went up to him and asked him about a fortune, and he told her a bad fortune in return because he really didn't understand. He was a little kid, and lo and behold, she committed suicide. So when he left the town, he was hoping to be rid of this place, but transferred schools back into that place. And at first, it looks like he's happy because he ran into a girl he really liked in kindergarten. You know, they start becoming a thing. They end up dating, etc., which was kind of rushed in that own sense. But you know, they do become an item. But he feels like the town is creeping on him, and he can't really get away from this fact. And he hates the fact that this weird, you know, pretty boy exists, and people believe in his fortune and stuff like that. So what he actually ends up doing at one point, because he feels like, again, he's responsible for something, when one of his girlfriend's best friends ends up killing herself when she goes crazy for him after a fortune by the pretty boy. And, you know, he feels like, oh, it's my fault again, you know, I need to redeem myself. So he goes around to the crossroads and ends up telling people good fortunes and telling everyone everything will work out. But in the process, he runs into all the dead people that have committed suicide there. He also runs into the pretty boy, but the pretty boy seems to elude him every single time. And, you know, long story short, to kind of end this thing on it, it goes into this story of, I want to say, almost redemption in this kind of weird situation where not a lot happens to our protagonist. I mean, yes, some horrible things happen to him in terms of other people, but it ends on this note where it's like the crossroads are undetermined why they exist. Why is it like this? Who is the pretty boy? That's it. You know, and even though he looks like he gets back with his girlfriend and things may be happy from now on, it almost has the illusion of the fact that, yes, maybe everything's over, but it's probably not, because the town still has those crossroads. I don't know. It could be seen in many ways. You could see it as like a redemption story, like I said before, where, you know, he's trying to redeem himself for the past mistakes he thinks he made. But at the same time, I would have loved to know, who's his pretty boy? Why is he so important? What's his purpose? You know, is he really just a kind of ill will? You know, Junji Ito stories are always like this, where we do have characters that just have bad things befall them, unfortunately, with no rhyme or reason. Just, here we go, bad things will happen to you. You're going to be cursed, you're going to have this happen to you, you're going to have all the things that can happen to you bad are going to happen to you. But, you know, typically what makes his stories work is when they go on the longer end, when they actually go bit by bit of why these things are happening. For example, like Uzumaki or even Tomi. You know, those stories are about lust, those stories are about human desires, human emotions, human failures, etc. Even Gio, for example, all those stories have a purpose to them. His shorts, however, things just happen, and some of his shorts work perfectly because of that, and then some are like, you know, this story where, why was this necessary? Why did this happen? What was the purpose? What do we get from it? What was the conclusion? There's none of that. And that's one of the biggest issues I have with Crossroads, because I didn't think it was horrible. It had a good start, and it had a good middle part, but then just ends. It's like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And then that same thing applies to the second half of the episode, which is Snail Girl, which the girl becomes a snail. That's all I can say about it. Like, legit, she has problems talking all of a sudden. I think it's because her family's killing snails left to right that she's cursed to become a snail, and they can't kill her. You know, they try to exorcise the snail from her by throwing her in a bath of salt, But the thing is that lo and behold, her head survives, and the snail inside of it survives, and it just crawls around with her head. It uses a shell. Why? I don't know. I mean, I don't try to understand Junji Ito's works because I think that's a whole different realm of horror in its own right. I love Junji Ito stuff, don't get me wrong, I really do. I think his works are so original in the concepts, but I just sometimes wish they had conclusions. And I think that, you know, one thing about horror, like if you look at Twilight Zone, which I think is a lot of ways very reminiscent of Junji Ito's collection and stuff like that, the Twilight Zone, why it works is because you have a beginning, middle, end. You have a story. With a lot of Junji Ito's things, you have a beginning, sometimes middle, and then no end. Or you have a beginning, end. That's it. You know, like even with Long Dreams from episode 2, it has a beginning, middle, end to it, but really what matters is the beginning and end. That's it. Like the middle part is just a kind of restart of always the beginning parts because we see how the whole thing begins. And it's not like where I'm saying, oh, it starts off with a girl talking about this. No, I don't mean that. I mean the concept is that the middle is what takes the precedent and restarts over and over again because it's like a cycle. That's the best way I could put it. So you really have this kind of, I want to say, just cycle of a story. You know that the next time someone else is going to have these long dreams, aka the girl in this case, the same thing that happened to do in the beginning is going to befall her, and if the doctor keeps doing what he's doing, it's going to befall someone else, etc., and go on forever and ever. You know, it's one of those type of stories. Junji Ito's collections, you know, I'm noticing that trend where we're getting either a beginning, middle, and that's it. We're not getting conclusion, or we're getting a little bit of everything, but it's done in a really kind of haphazard way. That's why I will say that, you know, I don't know. It's like, I don't hate this episode. I'll tell you right now, the best part of it, the music in the beginning was like Silent Hill. I loved it. It was so good. It was so on point. It made everything about the episode creepy and eerie, but that was it. You know, like, oh, and the animation's solid too, but was the story good? Yeah, that's up to you. That's up to you, I think. Ultimately, guys and girls, I don't know. I can't say I dislike the show. I also think that also my bias is from Junji Ito and I know his works. So for a lot of people that have no idea who his works are and they're basing it off on the collections, I got news for you. I'm sorry in advance, but yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, what did you guys think about this week's episode? If you are watching, let me know in the comments below. As always, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, think about hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the like button, share the video around, and also check out my Patreon for various rewards, etc. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great, blessed day, everyone. God bless you all. Bye-bye.